Welcome, listeners, to another episode of Panel Pals, the comic book podcast for thinkers. We're your hosts, Diane Hitchings.
And Jack Stewartson.
So, Jack, how are you doing today?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm great. I had a 5 a.m. shift this morning. I've had like 4 mugs of tea. I am wired.
Awesome. I'm a little wired too. Do you mind if we start off on something a little serious just for our warm-up?
Okay.
So, just this week, CBC reported on a news story coming out of Calgary in regards to the Alberta Education Minister changing some rules about what books can be shown in public school libraries.
Mm-hmm.
The article makes reference to Education Minister Dimitrios Nicolaitis, who's making a move to either remove or restrict the following graphic novels. Genderqueer by Maya Kobabe, Fun Home by Alison Bechdel, Blankets by Craig Thompson, and Flamer by Mark Curato, with concerns regarding graphic nudity and explicit content. Now, I assume that we can both call ourselves experts in this matter. I know that you've read Fun Home, which, in my opinion, is the most graphic of these books.
And I wouldn't call it graphic in the least.
Diane, I was going to ask you, is Fun Home porn?
You were saying the list, and you said Fun Home, and I'm like, I'm sorry. What?
So, the other thing that concerns me about this is I don't think it's a coincidence that 3/4 of these books are in regards to LGBTQ subject matter, and they're all autobiographies.
Yeah, I want to debate this man. I'm gonna be like, okay, sir, sit down, let's talk about Fun Home. Tell me, what part of this is not allowed? Come on, Alberta. What are you doing? What are we doing here?
It's a sad state of affairs over here. I miss BC every day.
God damn it, Alberta. You gotta be kidding me.
Yeah, so we've reached a consensus. These aren't smut.
No.
I just want to say, and you don't have to attach yourself to Diane, but Dimitrios Nicolaitis, you're a coward. Daniel Smith, you're a corporatist, fascist, and whatever comes for you, you will deserve worse. And whatever parents group advocated for this, you guys are bigots.
I don't think a single person involved in this has read any of these books.
I don't think so either.
But either they've never read it, or they are unaware of how to critically analyze a piece of literature. Because fun fact, you got like a little picture of a titty? Guess what? There's nothing inherently sexual about that. So, excuse my French, fuck off.
Thank you. I feel vindicated. Thank you.
Oh, did you think I was going to be here and have the opposite opinion? Come now.
No, I assumed we'd be on the same page with this one.
And I'm like, me, blissfully unaware of what's happening in Alberta as I am no longer in that province. Oh no. God damn it. I guess I have to make it my mission now to just like make everybody I know read Fun Home.
Yes.
So that
I was going to say, keep the titties in comic books.
Yes. All right, I guess that's what I'm going to have to do now. Oh no, I'm going to have to change so much about my artistic practice. Oh no. Ha 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 ha. Yeah. All right. Should we get into the episode, which is man, we should have there could have been so many more of my picks that could have fit that intro way better than what I'm going to say when I say let's transition into talking about One Punch Man.
Let's talk about One Punch Man, yeah.
Alrighty. One Punch Man is a superhero manga originally created by One as a webcomic in 2009. The manga adaptation is drawn by Yusuke Marata, who is also the artist of the sport manga Eyeshield 21. Marata's manga adaptation of One Punch Man began in 2012 in Weekly Young Jump, with the English version being available through Weekly Shonen Jump. In this episode, we'll be talking mostly about the manga adaptation, but I want to talk briefly about One and the original webcomic version. One is the original author and artist of One Punch Man, and he's also the creator of Mob Psycho 100, another awesome series. And both of these series are about flawed, overpowered characters. Most of the manga adaptation of One Punch Man is shot for shot from the webcomic, but there are some parts that were added, kind of like how a manga to anime adaptation changes a few things. Speaking of anime, One Punch Man has an anime adaptation that started in 2015, with the second season airing in 2019, and a third season set to air fall 2025. The first season is great. Sometimes I just go watch the last episode of the season on Netflix to put myself in a good mood because the fight scene in that episode is awesome. I never finished the second season because it was pretty mid. We'll see how the third season is. A brief synopsis of this series: One Punch Man is about Saitama, a superhero for fun who is so strong he defeats every enemy in one punch. He lives in a world where monsters exist and heroes, mostly affiliated with the Hero Association, defeat said monsters. Saitama started out being a hero for fun, but being so strong he no longer finds enjoyment in fighting monsters, he just feels emptiness. Shortly after the beginning of the series, he accidentally and unwillingly gains a disciple in Genos, a powerful cyborg who is very serious and very loyal, a character foil to how Saitama is quite aloof and unserious about most things. The two of them live in a rundown apartment building in City Z, which is teeming with monsters for them to defeat. Over the course of the series, we're introduced to a large cast of colorful characters, including the other members of the Hero Association, a lot of monsters, the Monster Association, ninjas, psychics, aliens, and eventually God. The stakes increase with every villain introduced, resulting in many planet-threatening crises, all of which get defeated by Saitama, usually in a way that results in him getting little to no credit. So, Jack, what did you think about One Punch Man?
This might be controversial,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm going to reserve my right to hold judgment on One Punch Man. I will say that I have mixed feelings about One Punch Man. How's that?
Okay, interesting. Are you reserving your right to make a judgment for later in this episode, or are you just not going to say?
No, I'm not going to say it. I'll say it. I'm not going to say.
Why?
For one thing, I wouldn't mind coming back to this over a longer period of time, like maybe exploring a couple more volumes.
Yes, for reference, we're focusing mostly on the first two volumes, maybe 2 volumes and a chapter or 2 more.
Yeah, two and a half-ish.
Yeah.
Can I tell a story? Do you mind if I go on a diatribe?
Oh, 100%. Do it. Please do.
This is a story that you're at least familiar with, Diane. Once upon a time, teenage Jack hated anime, and by extension, teenage Jack did not like manga. Because anime and manga was enjoyed by, or at least part of the reason why, is because it was enjoyed by those kids. And what I mean by those kids is somewhat socially awkward, maybe a little overexcited, or maybe hyper-fixated on certain aspects of this medium. And I had my own problems. I couldn't be associated with that. Part of my other hatred, I say hatred, but I'll just say ignorance, is I was probably able to recognize some of the tropes and some of the foibles of specifically translated, westernized, Japanese anime and manga. I would put them all in a category of spiky-haired teenagers who yell at each other with no backgrounds and varying degrees of sex and violence, which I was not interested at the time. When I was 16, that all changed. I watched Cowboy Bebop and Akira, and I read that first volume of Akira, and my mind was blown. And I've been a fan of manga ever since. I'm a little discerning in my taste of anime, but we don't have to talk about that.
Oh, don't worry. So am I. There's a reason I read a lot more manga than I watch anime, but...
Now, somewhere between me being a teenager who hated anime and manga and a discerning adult who loved manga and enjoys some anime, I would have heard about this cool new thing coming out of Japan, One Punch Man. And it's a parody of all shonen manga. It's about a guy, right? He's this guy, and he's super badass. But he can end any fight in one punch. So it's not like Dragon Ball, where they get dragged out for episodes upon episodes and chapters on chapters. And he doesn't have spiky hair. He's bald. He has regular problems, like he has to go to the grocery store and whatnot. And at the time, I remember thinking, good. Some combination of either good or it's about time. You know what I'm saying? I felt like One Punch Man was maybe punching up at an industry that was expanding rapidly, right? As I grew up, I saw the manga section get bigger and bigger, and now it's bigger than the graphic novel section in chapters. now we live in a world where One Punch Man is one of the faces of shonen manga. Would you agree with that?
It's definitely not the most popular, but I wouldn't say it's the most obscure. It was definitely more popular a few years ago. Nowadays, I don't see many people talking about One Punch Man, but it's definitely not obscure.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like now, with hindsight, it almost feels like One Punch Man is like punching down. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing.
You think it's mean that One Punch Man is making fun of the spiky-haired protags of other shonens?
I think it needs maybe to get off its high horse. As much as it parodies or criticizes, or I hesitate to say the word reflects on its genre and the tropes therein, it also falls foible to them.
Yes. Yeah, you can't have a shonen series that spits in the face of all shonen tropes, because then it's not shonen. You can have it make fun of some things, and you're like, haha, I get, ew, it's poking fun at something, haha, that's funny. And then it does the same thing. Yeah. Oh, well aware of that. So, what I was gonna say, fun fact, full transparency, One Punch Man is tied for my favorite manga series ever.
Uh-oh.
No, but the funny thing is, like, I went and reread a bunch of One Punch Man for this episode, and I like One Punch Man in a very normal way compared to most of the times I get hyperfixated on something media-wise. Like, when I got into Baki, I guess it's because Baki is, like, a weird series, so, like, my feral interest in it was also, like, unhinged. I really like One Punch Man, and I like it in a really normal way, as in, I'm collecting all the volumes.
As they come out in English?
Yeah.
Or
have
the original Japanese?
I have the English ones. I've got like 20-something out of 30-something. I get a couple every year. Usually my Christmas and birthday list is just get a couple One Punch Man volumes. But like compared to like Baki, which is I go out and seek the original Japanese ones and I draw a bunch of fan art and I spend a lot of money on commissions and stuff and like I draw funny like meme pictures about it. No, my like love for One Punch Man is very normal, and it makes sense because in a lot of ways it's quite a normal series, quite a normal shonen series. One of the ways I would say it's not very normal is that it is a superhero manga. Do you know of any other superhero mangas?
Again, this is gonna be controversial, but aren't all shonen manga kind of superhero mangas?
Like in a lot of ways, yeah. They fall. You could argue that Bleach is just a superhero manga, but they just wear different outfits. They're not wearing capes and spandex.
Like, what's the difference between Bleach and, like, I don't know, is John Constantine a superhero? Like, they both fight ghosts.
Yeah.
That's like, they do the same job.
Yeah. I think, like, for manga, one of the big ways that they define a superhero in their genre is, do the characters call themselves heroes? Is at least one of the heroes wearing a cape?
So from the aesthetic point of view, One Punch Man is maybe unique.
Yeah, well, it's not, because, like, I don't know if you've ever heard of the extremely popular shonen series My Hero Academia.
Ah, yes, My Hero Academia.
Which we could do an episode on at some point if we want to piss a lot of people off. I take it you probably haven't read My Hero Academia?
I've read the first volume, and I saw that new movie. I thought it was okay.
Yeah. I've read a...
Let's not get into...
No, we can do an episode some other time about My Hero Academia, but, like, that is, like, if you were to ask the average manga enjoyer, hey, what's a superhero manga? They'd be like, My Hero Academia. And you'd be like, fair enough, that's the one. I was, like, racking my brain for other ones, and I'm like, okay, Tiger and Bunny is also a superhero anime. And it's like they call themselves heroes and they wear superhero outfits. And then the other one I was thinking of is Cyborg 009. They don't exactly wear capes. Yeah. They have scarves. I do also think we should do an episode about Cyborg 009 sometime. I love it.
Have you ever heard of Samurai Flamenco?
Yes, very tangentially. Yes, that is awakening a thought in my brain. Yeah.
All I could think while reading this was like, oh man, I miss Samurai Flamenco.
Yeah.
Samurai Flamenco is like the reverse One Punch Man for those unfamiliar. It's about a regular guy who fights like regular crimes initially, like people get their umbrellas stolen, and so he bikes around to give people their umbrellas until the stakes just escalate to the moon and he has to fight actual supervillains.
Yeah. So yes, I guess that would also count as well. But you could argue that most shonen series follow a general superhero story arc, or it fits the power systems or power scaling or any way you want to say it. It's just formally the way that I think manga defines themselves as a superhero series is, do they call themselves superheroes? Is at least one character who calls himself a superhero wearing a cape. Okay, now it's a superhero show. And then it just follows a normal shonen storyline.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Sure.
I was gonna say, as a connoisseur of American superhero comics, I was gonna ask, how does One Punch Man to you like compare both formally and conceptually?
I think some of the ideas aren't as novel as I think One or Marata think they are. Like the League of Superheroes, like you have to take a standardized test and all that. That's sort of stuff that's been established in not just in comics but in other media. I'm thinking of like, you ever heard of the Venture Brothers?
Oh, I freaking love the Venture Bros. Of course I have.
Yeah.
Anyways,
so
yeah.
like the League of Evil,
Yeah.
right? It's
it's
a
called.
similar idea. They have this bureaucracy that like controls what things they can do as a supervillain or as a superhero character. It ain't no Watchmen. That's all I'm saying.
Yes, I think it's a slightly different genre of superhero comic than Watchmen. Though, maybe later in this discussion, I will probably compare One Punch Man to some literature that is going to make you laugh, in the vein of me comparing Superman to the Black Square from last episode, but we'll get to that later. What do you think about the art?
I like it. Marata is a talented artist. There's a fight in the third volume between Genos and One, or Saitama, that's like so incredibly cinematic. Like they feel like storyboards for anime in the way that they're drawn, and that was amazing. I'm probably gonna steal from that in my next comic whenever that comes out.
Yeah.
I love all the sound effects. But again, and I don't want to sound like a contrarian, but having read the original webcomic, it's very charming. I kind of like it a lot more.
Yeah, no, I really enjoy the original webcomic. And I mean, like, a lot of the manga is, like, cribbing directly, like, the paneling and the composition, and of course the character designs and everything. It's just drawn in a different style and put in a book that I can buy in the store. But yeah, no,
It feels like a rough draft.
Yeah, like the storyboards almost. And I think One is very excellent at composition for his panels, and that's probably why a lot of the manga ends up looking so good, is because like it has those very interesting panels and angles that lead to a dynamic fights. I will say a lot of the scenes where people are just talking, the art is like, it's fine. It's like, it's just a scene where people are talking, so it's like not really, like, I guess put your effort into drawing the insane fights, not just random bureaucratic talkings. If you think that this scene where Saitama and Genos are fighting is good, I would highly recommend reading more, because it only gets better and more cinematic and more amazing. There's literally some like fights where the book can almost act as a flip book.
Oh, interesting.
And like create this like awesome scene of Saitama defeating a giant centipede, but like, oh, it looks so good. One of the reasons I'm collecting the manga is because it just like, it looks so nice, and you can literally treat it like a flip book, and which is really cool. And then like you watch the anime and you're like, I guess this is fine. How did the how did the manga almost be a better anime than the anime? But yeah, art's good. It's very, I don't want to say normal, but it is. Like, it looks like manga. It's not...
It looks like action manga. Yeah.
It's not like something insanely stylized and weird where you look at it, you're like, that's not how a person looks. So, I think it does a very good job of, like, getting what it's trying to get across, as in, the fight scenes look gorgeous, and you can really feel... Personally, I think you can really feel, like, the scale of some of the threats. Like, a lot of the...
Totally.
A lot of the antagonists, the monsters, one of the horrifying things of them is the absolute sheer size of them. And especially throughout the manga, you can feel that sense of the sublime, where it's awe and terror looking upon these humongous monsters, and you're like, yeah, no, that city is screwed. Humanity is dead. And then a goofy little bald guy comes across and punches him once, and you're like, ah, nice.
Yeah, after this first chapter, it's amazing that anyone is alive in Japan.
Yeah. I guess that's one of the things you just have to suspend your disbelief for, is all the cities seemingly get destroyed by every giant monster that falls onto them. And it's not really brought up. Like, it's like, oh, yeah, this, whatever.
Yeah, it's like Powerpuff Girls or Godzilla or whatever.
Yeah.
They rebuild it the next day and everything's fine.
Yeah, pretty much. And you just kind of have to... Oh yeah, like the the third chapter where Saitama defeats this huge dude who's on super steroids. Yeah, he just defeats him, and then the last panel of the chapter is just him saying "oops" as the giant monster just falls and destroys the city. And you're like, not even gonna question all the people that died? Okay, well, I guess that's the leeway you can give when it's a comedy series.
I got a question regarding some of the designs.
Uh-huh.
Do you know, like, is one trying to reference stuff with some of these bad guys? It feels like they're like plays on pre-established manga characters. Do you know what I'm saying?
I don't think so. I really don't think so. I think, like, some of them are, like, a play on, like, tropes that exist, but I don't think they're referencing other characters. Like, I think it was just like, yeah. I mean, it's first chapter. Vaccine Man? What's this evil guy called? Does he say? Yeah.
Like the giant guy? Oh,
yeah,
no, I
am Vaccine
like
Man. Yeah. I exist because of humankind's constant pollution of the environment. Like, a lot of the bad guys are just like that. There's like, oh, I am this part of the planet being like, humans suck. I'm gonna rise up, get rid of humans. Or it's like, what does this crab guy say? Oh yeah, he's just transformed into a crab after eating too much crab. They're just guys, especially with the villains. I think it was just like, what's kind of an interesting concept or something really goofy that we can just draw? Yeah, thoughts on the character designs?
Again, I'm mixed. I'm completely mixed. I think this first guy that he fights he looks way too much like King Piccolo from Dragon Ball. But I really like this mosquito woman. I like both forms of this mosquito woman. I think it's a really interesting
yes, I too
design.
I too like the pretty insect lady. She has great assets on her. Yes, I think I really like just like the sheer goofiness and ridiculousness of a lot of the villains. I compiled a list of some of the ones that I think are like the funniest just by what they are, or just putting these words into a sentence makes me laugh. These are not any characters you've been introduced to yet, but I'm just gonna regale you with a couple of the interesting ones.
Sure, I got Google.
Yeah, so these are all characters that are part of the Monster Association that you meet much later in the big Monster Association versus Hero Association arc, where it's just a giant fight between monsters and heroes, which ends in one of the most, like, beautiful fight scenes. It's gorgeous. It's so cool. I would 10 out of 10 recommend reading it. But anyways, so we have Overgrown Rover, which is a giant powerful dog that can shoot energy blasts out of its mouth strong enough to destroy literally every superhero. He gets punched by Saitama once and is now very obedient. Saitama ends up having him as a pet dog. There's also Black Sperm, which is just a humanoid sperm that has a bunch of like cells that can turn into other sperm. And if a bunch of the sperm coalesce, they can become golden sperm, which is very powerful. And if all of the sperm coalesce, they can become platinum sperm, which is the most powerful.
No.
He also
no.
he gets beaten and also becomes Saitama's pet, pretending to be a weird-looking monkey. And Homeless Emperor, which is just a homeless dude who kind of looks like Jesus and has the power of God. He is later killed by God. So most of the bad guys, they're just like random concepts that look funny, and then they're just like, yeah, what if we made this goofy little sperm creature super powerful? And also he turns into like kind of like the Silver Surfer. Anyways.
I was going to compliment the literal translations on some of these names.
Oh my god, yes.
I think Tiger Tank Top is like a radical name. I think it's awesome. But you have completely made me do a 180 with Black Sperm.
He's one of the funnier bad guys. Yes, there's like a dozen heroes just named some version of Tank Top. There's like vegetarian Tank Top, obligatory Tank Top girl because she's a girl. Yeah. They are all students of Tank Top Master, who is one of the S-class heroes, and they just work out a bunch and they're really strong. Yeah, some of the heroes are just people who work out and they're really strong, but a slightly different flavor of it. Most of them don't really have powers. They're just a super strong guy, or guy who's really good with sword, or actually is like god level telekinesis powers. And you're like, okay, how is a guy in a tank top who's strong supposed to compete with like someone who is really good with telekinesis?
See, stuff like that, that's where I kind of, my eyebrow is raised when you say that it has all of the trappings or some of the aesthetics of American superhero comics, because when you look at even a independent comic book universe, like the original Image guys or the Big Bang comics or Astro City, you got, aliens, people from mythology, various elemental characters, right? Psychics. But here, over in One Punch Man, it seems like there's only two ways that you can get superpowers. You either augment yourself through like science, so like robots or like genetically modified people, or you just work out really hard.
Yeah. I mean, you can also be a psychic. You can also be a furry. I'm not going to explain that one further. You can also scam your way into being powerful, as in you have no powers and people just think you are strong because of misfortune. Yeah, most of the heroes, it's pretty much one of two ways of being strong. As for the monsters, there's much more ways of being monster. Like you have some like elemental bad guys, as in there's a bad guy called Evil Water, which is evil water. It's water, it's an element. You also have like vampires. Woo.
Okay, yeah.
you have psychics, and also a thing about the monsters, which you probably they definitely wouldn't have referenced in the first 3 volumes. They might have. He turned into a crab because he ate too much crab. Most monsters are humans that turned into monsters.
Right.
Whether, like, because they ate too much crab, or, like, they got morally corrupted, or later on, blah, 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 you could eat a monster cell, which is potentially part of God, whatever. I'm not going to get into that. Too much plot. Or you can do something, like, where they call it surpassing your limit, or removing your limiter, or whatever. There is one important character that shows up later who becomes, like, the final boss fight of this hero and monster association fight, blah, 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 whatever. He's just a human who, like, surpasses his limits and becomes a monster and gains immense power and is able to more or less go toe-to-toe with Saitama because he develops the ability to copy people's powers. So he's like, well, if Saitama's really good at punching, I'll just copy his punches and then I can take him out too.
Okay, that's like a superhero.
Yeah.
Trope-esque thing. Yeah.
Okay. he's like, oh, I can just defeat Saitama by being as strong as him, except no, Saitama just continues to get stronger, and the bad guy can't keep up with his strength, blah, blah, blah. He isn't able to punch as hard as Saitama. An interesting thing about that is, the reason why Saitama is so strong is because he surpassed his limit, which makes you think, well, doesn't that then make him a monster?
Interesting. That gets into my other talking point that I was going to bring up.
Yes.
So Saitama is like a bad guy, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
He's like a guy, and he's not very heroic. Yep.
Yeah. When I was reading this, it occurred to me Saitama has more in common with Travis Bickle or that Joaquin Phoenix Joker. I keep bringing up Joker every one of these freaking episodes. I hate that movie. But like, he has traits that I think the modern day internet would ascribe to as like the dyad between like a Sigma male or like an incel.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And I'm wondering does that get elaborated on? Because that would be interesting. Like, I would actually want to see that, right? I'd just like to see that progression go through. But if he remains a flat character.
So I reread a good deal of the series for this episode, and it was during that rereading that I thought, oh, wait, is Saitama the villain? Is he a monster? Because there is one point in time in chapter 161, I believe, when Saitama is having the final battle of like the Hero Association versus Monster Association fight, and he's about to start the fight with the guy who surpassed his limits and is now a monster and is going to be able to copy people. This other guy, this antagonist, is like, hey, I am the epitome of evil. I am going to prove that monsters can win. I'm going to become a monster and win and be like, look, bad guys can win. The good guys don't always have to win. And then Saitama's like, okay, well, if you're like gonna go play monster, like just don't do it here. We're in the middle of a giant like fight thing. I watched you just save a kid on a helicopter, so I don't think you're evil. And the bad guy's like, yes, I am. Watch, I'm evil. And then Saitama turns around and looks at him and is like, bro, I've had a bad day. And he says, I kind of feel like I'd rather just obliterate the whole planet. And the bad guy here is like, oh, sweet hell, did that guy this guy's probably evil, huh? And it's like, if this is setting up with Saitama ending up as the bad guy, I'm stoked for that. I don't know if it will be, because at the end of the day, this is a comedy series, but I really hope it does, because that would be great.
It would be great. That's my fear, though, is reading through this. And again, we're reading translated versions, so some of the humor might come across differently in Japanese versus English.
Yeah.
But it's all based on like non sequitur and anticlimax. So like, I'm skeptical that One Punch Man won't end with Saitama being tempted towards the dark side and then going, you know what? Nah, it's fine. It's cool. And then it just ending on like your usual shonen happy ending.
Yeah. Like, because there is multiple times in the series where Saitama talks about his ennui and his like apathy. Like in the first volume here, there's a chapter where he talks about he has a problem. My emotions are dulling. I have no fear, no joy, no tension, no anger. In exchange for gaining strength, I have lost something important as a human being.
Very Bickle-coded.
Yeah, and he's like, when I fight superhumans and monsters, there is no clash of spirits. They're like bugs. I feel no emotion, as if I'm crushing a mosquito. And then he slaps a mosquito. So anyways, that was very...
Very misses.
Yeah, that whole diatribe he had was very, oh, you're gonna go shoot up a school, huh? But then he isn't able to kill the mosquito. And so maybe I'm just overanalyzing things here, because it could be just for the comedy of it. But I'm like, if he's like, yes, nothing is a challenge anymore, and if he just kills the mosquito, that's proof that nothing is a challenge anymore. But the fact that the mosquito was able to get away, does that mean that there's still hope for him? Maybe?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Maybe.
There's a time later on, he's talking with a character named King, who is my second favorite character in this series. King is pretty much like the antithesis of Saitama, where he has absolutely no powers. He's just a wimpy dude who likes video games, but through a bunch of like misunderstanding and the fact that he kind of like attracts monsters, everybody's like, oh wow, you've defeated all these monsters. Most of the time it's just Saitama defeating a monster and King happens to be there, and everybody just ascribes the defeat of the monster to the more cool, manly, superhero looking guy and not the bald dude. But anyways, King and Saitama become friends. They both know, Saitama knows that King is wimpy, King knows that Saitama is super strong. And then Saitama is also being like, hey, I have a problem. I feel nothing. He's like, basic human emotions and sensibilities are becoming duller by the day. So he's still like discussing it, and it's still a plot point. That part ends with King being like, okay, well, like, have you tried doing other things? You say you're lonely. You could go meet people. You say you're bored. You could pick up a hobby. It sounds like you haven't tried anything. You're just being fatalistic for no reason. And it's like, very true. Is this also showing that he has hope for getting better? Don't know. Hasn't got that far in the story yet. We'll see if it does. I really hope it does. Like, one of the big things I wanted to talk about, and one of the reasons why I really like this series, is just like, we have an overpowered character, but his main problem is this, like, apathy. It's like, yeah, it's a comedy series, and most of it is focused on the superhero hijinks. But at the heart of it, it's just a guy who is trying to find joy again in the world. And just every time he tries to feel something, it's reinforced that he's too strong. And so he just keeps on trying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I'm just puzzled by his motivation, like Saitama's motivation,
Mhm.
even for becoming a superhero. We get sort of a secret origin in these first couple volumes where when he was in school, he was bullied, and then also like a piggy bank monster came and robbed him. And then later on, he like got fired from his job. Is it explained what his job was? Was he just like a salary man?
No, I think it's the point is he's just basic salary man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's fired from his mundane job, which depresses him, and then he saves a kid from a crab monster, which seems to inspire him to go into the superhero game just because it's finally something that he's good at and he enjoys simultaneously. But then if you keep reading, he doesn't enjoy this. And he doesn't do anything heroic afterwards.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm just puzzled by, is one trying to say that like grandstanding and being a hero is selfish and like it's not worth it in the end, it's hollow?
I think a lot
like,
of
what
this
drives Saitama?
Yeah, it's like, yeah, he wasn't employed and he was like, fuck it, I have nothing else to do, I have nothing else to lose, I'll try to fight a giant crab monster that I probably have no hope of winning against. And he managed to win, and he's like, wow, I feel something. Yeah, this is better than being a mindless salary man, more or less, so like, I'll like train for this. And so he starts training, and then eventually he becomes strong, and that's like the whole thing. I think there are other aspects of the story where it is kind of saying the whole glitz and glam and the outward appearance of being superheroes is way more rotten than it appears. Like there's a bunch of like shady bureaucracy happening within the Hero Association, and like betting on superheroes winning fights, and like money laundering or whatever, and like stealing, and just a bunch of shady stuff. So like, and then eventually a bunch of the heroes lose faith in the Hero Association and they defect to the Neo Heroes, and a lot of the heroes end up just being kind of like having to be like bodyguards for rich people. I think the story itself is not glamorizing being a hero. Could also be me reading way too deep into funny superhero comedy shonen series. But I think a lot of it is being like, yeah, it looks great and cool to be a hero, but it's really not good under the surface. Is it potentially a commentary?
Is it about the manga industry?
I was gonna say it's potentially a comment about the idol industry.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Because I was rereading later, like more recent chapters, and I think one of the ninjas, fun fact, there's like a whole ninja clan or whatever, secret village, whatever, of course. And I think one of the ninjas is like, hey, my call sign is this. And I'm like, oh, is this a parody about the idol industry?
Interesting.
So I think that is too. I mean, does the parody work? Is it actually saying something? I mean, I think it's just saying things we already know, that fancy, associations or like anything like like Hollywood or idol industry or the manga industry, it looks great and flashy on the outside, but it's probably corrupt on the inside. I mean, like, I think we're jaded
Doing
enough.
What you love for a job can make you hate it in the end.
Yeah. It's like, I think we're all jaded enough about capitalism to be like, yeah, we know.
Yeah.
I got that. But back to talking about you comparing Saitama to more like an anti-hero as compared to like a good heroic protagonist. The media I was going to compare it a little bit to is some existentialist and absurdist fiction, such as Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka and The Stranger by Albert Camus.
Camus, of course.
What do you mean, of course?
Everything sucks, and I hate everything, and I'm gonna do something about it, and then I don't actually do anything about
it. Fun fact, these two books live rent-free in my head at all times, especially The Stranger by Albert Camus. I really like Camus' writing. I don't know why. I like absurdism. But in both of these books, we have like a quote-unquote protagonist who's not very much a protagonist. We'll talk about The Stranger more specifically. It's just a guy who has no redeeming qualities, really. He just goes about life. He's very apathetic. He has no real emotions. He shoots a guy.
He does shoot a guy.
He
Yeah.
didn't have to shoot him like 4 or 5 times. He goes to jail. He's condemned to death. And all I can think is, if One Punch Man ends like The Stranger, I'm gonna be stoked. If Saitama becomes the number 1 hero and he becomes the villain, and okay, so fun fact, there's a prophecy. Fun fact, prophecies exist in this world in One Punch Man. There's a prophecy that there's going to be like a world-ending calamity or something. If it ends with Saitama being the world-ending calamity and all the forces in the universe have to come together to defeat him, or he wins, destroys the world, and that's that, I would love that.
To live out the rest of his days in an empty existence? Yeah, that'd be pretty existential. That'd be pretty absurd, I would say.
Oh my god. That would make it, well, I mean, I was going to say, it's already tied for first place for my favorite manga series, so it can't really make it higher on my tier list, but I would be so excited if that happened. Even though, yeah, fun fact, Saitama is my second favorite manga character that exists. I don't know if you remember, but when we went to school together, I did a presentation in a character design class about Saitama. You probably don't.
You did Saitama? I thought you did somebody from Golden Kamui.
That was for a different assignment.
Was that for layouts?
That was for layouts, but for character design, we had to pick a character that you thought had a good character design, and I was like, well, this is just going to be me bringing my hyperfixation to class again. So I did it on Saitama, saying how much I think his character design works, because he's goofy, simple, like you look at him, it's very easy to read. He's a superhero. Look at him. Also, he looks goofy.
And you can change his expression is so simple, you can change it to varying degrees of realistic or cartoony and make it as jarring as you want.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes it is very jarring because his face works so well from super comedic to absolutely terrifying.
I do love that.
It does go the full range, and it's great. So I think Saitama's character is great. I hope he becomes the villain at the end. That's the kind of series I like. Personally, I like morally gray or just gray characters in general. I don't want like ones that are unambiguously good or bad. Like, for example, I think this series would be way more boring if instead of Saitama being the main character, Genos was the main character. Genos is kind of set up...
I like Genos way more than Saitama.
Yeah, because he is set up to be like the protagonist of a shonen anime. He's got blonde spiky hair. He has a tragic backstory. His parents were killed by a rampaging cyborg. And so he got his cyborg power-ups, and he's serious, and he's pretty, and he's stoic, and he's loyal, and he has all these great qualities.
He's a traditional manga protagonist.
But like, I think the reason that he works is because he's a good character foil to Saitama, and the comedy works between them. I don't think this series would have legs if he was the main character, because like...
You don't think his arc of constant upgrading through unnatural means only to learn that the true power is within, you don't think that's like an interesting dilemma?
It is, but... there's kind of a difficult way to do that. It's like, I mean, it would be cool if they went into how, like, Genos doesn't have a human body, he's a cyborg. How is he able to surpass his own limits when he doesn't have the physical limitations of a human body? That would be an interesting concept to explore.
Is that not what it's going for?
I don't think so, because, I mean, the thing is, Genos is like, hey, let me be your disciple so I can learn how to be as strong as you. The unfortunate thing is that the way that Saitama became strong was just doing like a bunch of push-ups, sit-ups, squats, and then running 10K every day. Things that are extremely easy to someone with a cyborg body and would do nothing to make him stronger. So why is Genos still here being his disciple when Saitama has literally nothing to teach him? Yes, Genos does have that existential crisis at one point in time, but because he's very loyal, he's like, yeah, no, it's fine. I'll stick here and be your disciple. I do hope at some point in time he realizes he has nothing to learn. On that point, if he is able to become strong enough to eventually defeat Saitama when Saitama becomes the bad guy, that would be a great end. Because then he would actually be the protagonist of a shonen manga.
See, that's where I think it's all leading to.
I hope.
That feels, I don't know, that feels like a natural arc for Marata and One to go through.
I think the only two ways it can end is Saitama becomes the villain, or he manages to feel something somehow and finds another thing to satisfy him in life other than being strong.
Do you see Saitama as like is it masochist is when you like getting physically punished or whatever? Or is it sadist?
Nope, sadist is when you like to physically hurt other people. Or mentally, but yeah.
He's like a masochist, right? I think he wants Geno to eventually beat him.
He wants anyone to be able to give him a fight. I think if he got beaten, would he enjoy actually getting beaten? Or does he have too much pride for that? Because what he wants is he wants a good fight. He wants someone to be a challenge for him. Up to this point, we really haven't gotten that. Like, sure, he's had people he had to punch more than once, but we've never seen him, like, we actually think maybe he's gonna lose. I think, like what you said in a previous episode, everyone in these kind of series, whether it be like martial arts or superhero or whatever, it seems like they have to be a masochist on some level because a lot of like getting stronger is going through a bunch of pain. I have that same opinion for like all athletes. All high-level athletes are in some ways a masochist because you have to go through a lot of pain to get as strong and as skilled as a professional athlete.
That's like what the runner's high is all about, right? Like you're breaking through all the pain to finally find some sort of relief.
Yeah. As someone who did track and field, I don't know if I just never pushed myself far enough for the runner's high, but no, it never felt good. It only felt pain. It was only pain. It was never fun. But
yeah, I think I've only ever had it twice, and I can't say I was doing very well either time.
Yeah. Guess I could never be a superhero. Probably a good thing. But like, I think, yeah, he definitely is. He went through all of that training, which it was very hard at the start, and he was literally like in physical pain and barely being able to like finish the push-ups sometimes. So he had to have something pushing him to continue that.
Yeah, some sort of drive or motivation.
Some sort of drive.
I just don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know where it is.
Where
is it?
Yeah.
Is it one?
Yeah. Is it the desire to be strong? Is it just the desire to feel something? Is it just being a masochist and thinking that running 10 kilometers every day is enough to get you through? God, I would literally rather do anything before I ran 10 kilometers every day.
Does this count as a Dudes Rock comic?
The problem...
I would say no.
I don't think it is.
But I think an argument could be made.
Yeah, because I was like, could I say yes? Could I say no? I'm more leaning to wanting to say no. Because in my mind, a Dudes Rock comic, as we coined the term in the Backy episode, is about just guys being dudes and beating the shit out of each other and being strong and masculine, and that's the point. We do have a lot of characters like doing vaguely Dudes Rock kind of stuff, as in beating each other up, being super strong, going to the gym, getting stronger in martial arts or just physical bodybuilding or upgrading their cyborg parts. It just doesn't have the heart or the essence of a Dudes Rock series.
Yeah, I think like between that and some of the casual homophobia,
yes,
like leans that way, but
yes.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't think it doesn't go far enough.
No, it doesn't like glorify that sort of like masochism. There's people enjoying fights, but the fact that the thesis of the series is that our main character doesn't enjoy fights anymore makes it very hard to identify this with a Dudes Rock kind of comic.
Yeah. Like
the whole thing is like seeped in this despair or lack of enjoyment, despite it being a comedy series, where, for the most part, when the heroes are fighting villains, they're hopelessly unmatched because they're just dudes who work out fighting against literal monsters. And then when you have a character that shows up and defeats the monster in one punch, he feels nothing and he's disappointed because the monster wasn't strong enough. It's almost like the opposite of a Dudes Rock comic. It's
anti-Dudes Rock.
Yeah, because it's like, there's so much, like negativity and despair. Like people can get stronger, but at what cost and why would you bother? Like, if we talk specifically about the tank top people, this tank top master who is like an S-class hero, and he's really strong for a human being, obviously way stronger than an actual human being can be, and he's like, at one point I'm picking up giant rubble and throwing it at a spaceship, and then the psychic character just uses her psychic powers to yeet literally an entire city block at the spaceship, doing far more damage, which in the end is no damage compared to what Saitama does later. But just the whole scale of it, Tank Top Master is like, he feels some despair because he's like, how can I even compare with that? He does continue to keep training to eventually, hopefully, defeat or like be stronger than psychic powers. But you know, as the reader, that's just an exercise in folly. He's never going to get that strong.
It's futility.
It's futile. And so it's like, wow, that's also depressing. Like the characters, they want to get stronger, but it doesn't matter. And they're never going to be strong enough.
It is the stranger in that way, I guess. None of my actions matter. Everything's been pre-recorded or preordained. It's Saitama or nothing.
Yeah, and it's like nothing matters. The universe is uncaring. Your life is meaningless. And
life is meaningless.
And when you try to
every action I take is a small drop in a giant ocean. And
when you try to find joy in this meaningful world, you end up finding nothing. That made a silly superhero comedy series a lot more depressing than I assume the point is.
Can we talk about some of the comedy?
Yes. yes, let's.
Here's another thing I'm mixed on.
Mm-hmm.
The joke is, it's over in one punch,
mm-hmm.
right? And One and Marata fulfill that in varying degrees. It feels like fights are either drawn out to the logical conclusion of finally Saitama's forced, like his hand is forced and he has to do something regardless of whether he actually wants to or not.
Yeah.
Or right away Saitama ends a fight.
Yes.
And there's like no in between.
Mm-hmm.
Am I right about that?
Yeah, it's either Saitama ends it directly before it starts, or literally the entire hero organization is attempting to stop a thing, and then Saitama beats the guy with relative ease. Yeah, that's about how fights go.
I'm just...
Yeah.
How long can you sustain that?
33-ish volumes so far.
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess if you want to tell a concise story, that's kind of an awful way of doing it, but when you're writing an action series, and one of the main draws to your series is, look how good Marata can make fight scenes look, yeah, I don't mind that it goes on for a long time.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
you want to use the skills of your artist.
Yeah, because one of the things that is nice about this is taking Saitama out of the equation, because you know at the end he's going to show up and win. Every other fight, you don't know if the good guy or the bad guy is going to win. Because in a lot of series, the good guy has to win because that's how the plot keeps going. But in One Punch Man, the good guy can lose the fight. Every good guy can lose the fight they're having with the bad guy, because at the end of the day, Saitama's just going to come and win them all at the end. So each individual fight that happens before that, you're more invested in because, or you're more intrigued by, because you don't know if the good guy or the bad guy is going to win. It allows for that.
Are you, though?
Well, personally, for me, I am. Because it allows for that flexibility of the good guy could win this or the bad guy could win this. Because the series can do that.
Yeah, but Saitama's always going to get involved.
But I mean, if you...
So, I don't know.
Yeah, if you look at us...
Doesn't that affect stakes?
Yeah, it does. But if you look at anything as just the end and not the means of how you get there, doesn't that make things way more boring? It's always they always say it's the journey, not the destination. So, why not have fun with a bunch of fights that look good and can lead to some character development? Yes, we all know that the destination is Saitama's gonna win. But let's enjoy how we get there.
Yeah, I guess I can't fault you for that.
Yeah. I mean...
I don't know.
Yeah.
All I'm thinking is, even Goku died, twice.
Yeah. I mean, there are stakes. Characters die sometimes.
Yeah.
Do you want a spoiler? Or, fun fact, a very important character dies in this series at one point.
No, let's save it, because I think we'll come back to One Punch Man.
Yes.
I imagine.
Yeah. Would love that. I would love to yap for an hour or more about One Punch Man. But yes, there are some stakes. Characters do die. There are lasting impacts. I mean, another city got destroyed. Oh no. It'll just get rebuilt, which literally
just rebuild it.
Which literally happens at one point in time. The big Hero Association versus Monster Association battle destroys so much of a city that they just build a new giant, like, hero association headquarters that counts as a city, and Saitama ends up living there because his apartment building got destroyed by the fight, and now he's in a bad mood and wants to blow up the planet. Anyways, now he lives at a fancy new apartment. So I guess there was a lasting impact there. The status quo changed.
Interesting.
Yeah. I guess on the side of talking about Saitama and how overpowered he is as a character, like, as someone who has read a lot of superhero comics, like you have, and sometimes superheroes are very much overpowered, what is your thought on overpowered characters?
I think in fiction it shouldn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
No,
like,
explain.
Well, whereas in like a video game or tabletop role-playing games or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
you want to keep things balanced so that there is a push and pull of player engagement versus obstacles, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want there to be tension that way.
Mm-hmm.
But with fiction,
Mm-hmm.
it's all made up anyway.
Mm-hmm.
The stakes can be whatever you want it to be. Doesn't matter how powerful your protagonist is. You can be a regular guy and face, regular problems, regular drama. Or it could be Superman and he's got the whole world on his shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
You can escalate that however you want.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it really matters. If I'm comparing, I think the obvious comparison is, and the criticism that we hear about Superman all the time is that he's too powerful.
Mm.
But I've read plenty of stories where Superman's had to overcome things despite his power.
Mm-hmm.
One day we will cover Grant Morrison's All-Star Superman, which will maybe change your mind on that character and how that character works, how that character is supposed to work.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking to that where it's all about Superman using his mind to solve problems in addition to his other skill sets,
Mm-hmm.
versus Saitama, who doesn't seem to think
Mm-hmm.
much other than pure despair,
Mm-hmm.
but wins regardless.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's better. I don't know if it's the same quality-wise. It is different, though.
Mm-hmm. I guess I was asking more in the world of a piece of media, when you have one character that is much stronger than the others and can win fights relatively easily, what do you think of that in terms of storytelling? Is it boring? Is it useful for telling a story? Is it good power fantasy?
It depends on the story, I think. You bring up power fantasy, and that's what Superman was created to be. He was a socialist powered fantasy. Finally, somebody who takes the bad guys to task, and he's invincible, so he won't get hurt. And that was exciting at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Another example, probably closer to One Punch Man, Dr. Manhattan, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's got all of the power in not just the world, but probably the entire universe. He's able to transcend time and space.
Mm-hmm.
But his internal conflict is that he doesn't know why he's around. He doesn't know why he should care about anything if it's already happened.
Mm-hmm.
Again, one, you ripped it off.
He's even bald!
He's even bald, true. But eventually Manhattan, through conflict, is able to resolve that, both interpersonal, and he does actually have to fight Adrian at some point. Spoilers for a book I hope everyone has read.
Yeah. But, it's not like he really had any problems in that fight.
He got killed. He got disapparated.
Ooh, and
he had to reconfigure his whole body.
Ooh, and that was so difficult. He literally says, "You really think that was gonna work?" That was the first thing I learned how to do.
That's the first thing I learned.
Yeah. See, it pretty much says, "That posed no threat to me. Good job, you killed me for 2 minutes." And I guess then
I don't know.
Yeah, his solution is, "I'll be god of my own universe."
That's right.
Bye.
Saitama doesn't have that problem, though.
Ooh, I don't know, maybe he'll go become god of his own universe when he gets too powerful.
Maybe, that's true, I guess.
He's not smart enough for that.
Probably not.
Yeah, at least Dr. Manhattan was smart. But
so yeah, I don't know. I think I'm okay with somebody who's quote unquote overpowered. I don't think there's such a thing as overpowered, but I think the narrative needs to compensate for it. And I
Yeah.
don't know that One Punch Man necessarily does.
Yeah. I mean, I've read sometimes I'll just like randomly read like just random mangas, and sometimes I'll just read an isekai just to see if isekais have gotten better. And then I'll just inevitably be another story about a character who's super strong, and oh, it really does feel like just a power fantasy, and they have very little flaws, and they do everything very easily, and like, I don't know, I just hate those kind of stories. I just in general, I hate like main characters that, well, to me are boring, which usually ends up being morally simple characters or morally obviously good characters, which is probably why I like Saitama as a character, because he's not really a good person. And to me,
that is true. I'll give
that
him
makes
credit for
characters more interesting to me because it makes them more innately human. Because in general, humans are not black or white. They have flaws, they have virtues. Some of them suck, but not all of the persons suck. Some of them are really good, but not all of them is good. And I find that a lot of time in shonen manga, the main character is unequivocally good, and he has like, ooh, a flaw that's like, I don't know, maybe he's slightly too hot-tempered, or he likes to eat a lot. And that's just kind of boring. So
that's his one flaw, is his gluttony.
Yeah, oh, okay.
Looking at you, Goku.
Yeah, there's like at least 3 shonen main characters that could fit that, and Goku wasn't even the ones I was thinking of. I like the series because its main character is different than a lot of series. It's a guy who kind of sucks. He's not conventionally attractive. He's just kind of lame and plain, and so many other characters in this series would be main characters in a different series. But no, it focuses on this guy who kind of sucks, is really strong, and has an existential crisis throughout most of the series, and is kind of set up to end up being a monster and the main bad guy. Fingers crossed. And I personally think that the series does a good job of handling its overpowered character, because, like, yes, at the end of the day, we know Saitama is going to win, but there's enough things done, in my opinion, in the series that stop him from, like, destroying all the tension. Like, he has a personality that leads to him not being super heroic, so doesn't come across as this super virtuous, I'm better than everyone character. He comes across as the kind of dude who probably thinks he's better than you, but he's actually an asshole, so you're fine if you don't really like him. Sometimes I feel like, I feel bad for, like, not liking a shonen protagonist because there's really not any flaws to him, and I'm just like, ugh, he's just kind of boring. But, like, Saitama is kind of a mean dude, so, like, that's fine.
Does the drama in Saitama's life escalate at all? Like the interpersonal drama, I should say?
How do you mean?
If we're comparing it to The Stranger, part of the reason why I probably hated The Stranger in high school and why I might like it now is that there's not a lot going on in the book other than this guy doesn't like how his life or how the world has turned out, and then he kills a guy, and then he goes to jail. Like, there's no romance, really. There's no...
He does have a girlfriend in The Stranger.
Does
he has a girlfriend, and, like, one point in time, I think she, like, straight up is like, hey, should we get married? And he's like, eh.
Right.
Because he's so blasé about things. Yeah. No, we never get a love interest for Saitama. I think that would be very much make no sense in the series if we did. I mean, one of the things I like about the series is that there's very little, like, romance. There's, like, a lot of good friendships, which is great.
So Genos is not his only friendship then?
No, he has Genos. He has, like, he's also really good friends with King, the guy who is everyone thinks is a super powerful hero, but is actually just a wimpy dude who likes to play video games. And they get along pretty well because they both know the other one is different than how he's perceived by society, and they often go and play video games together. King is also kind of not the best person. He's one of the S-class heroes. He's one of the most, like, people that hold the most power in the Hero Association, but he'll just, like, straight up avoid answering phone calls when they're like, hey, please come just get rid of this monster. He'll just ignore the phone call and be like, oh, the streets are empty. Maybe I can go to the bookstore and get that new manga volume I wanted. And then
does that play out like a liar reveal sort of narrative? Do you know what I'm saying? Or is it kind of just played for laughs.
It's played for laughs a lot. He does have his own internal struggles with, like, he's gotten into so many situations where he's almost led the deaths of so many people because they're all like, hey, King's here. He's going to protect us all. And King's like, literally, I can't even pick up a sword to save my life. My arms are too weak. And the only reason people don't die is because Saitama comes and saves the day. And King is like, okay, well, I have to get stronger. I want to get stronger. And then he similarly has a kind of crisis like Saitama does, where he's like, I'm so weak, I can't do anything. And then Saitama's like, just work out. Like, you can solve your problem. You can go work out. He's like, I literally did the exact same thing as you. I went and worked out. You could solve your problem. But he's doing the same kind of weenie thing that Saitama is, so he just kind of complains about it. And when he does try to, like, get other people to train him and get better, literally everyone's like, the king wants me to teach him how to get better? Oh, am I going to get beaten up right now? I'm just going to write him a letter of recommendation from a different dojo that can train him. And they literally just do that a million times. And then King eventually gives up and goes back to playing video games with Saitama. And then Saitama's like, just go work out. Like, just you can fix yourself. So we'll see if King does eventually be able to, like, fix himself and get stronger. But Saitama has more than one friend. He does also have a bunch of people that, like, view themselves as his friend. But he's always like, oh, they're just, like, marginally my acquaintance. Which, like, makes some people feel bad. They're like, what? I thought we were friends. I literally tried to recruit you into my hero group. What? And you still just view me as barely an acquaintance? So, which I think is, like, another point about, like, how detached he is from things. He's, like, he doesn't want to really create friendships, even though he complains about being lonely. He holds people at...
Yeah, he doesn't want to train Genos.
Yeah.
Even.
He is causing his own problem by, like, not changing. He wants to not be lonely, but he refuses to make a legitimate effort to get to know people.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well.
Yeah. Anyways, who knows how the series will end? I have no idea if it's close to ending. We have gotten the reveal of what the big bad power probably is, and so I think that means that there'll probably be a final arc sometime in, like, the next 10 years. Who knows? This series...
10 years?
I don't know. The series has been going on for a long... Like, it got started in 2009 by one, and the manga has existed since, like, what did I say, 2012? So we are, like, 13 years into serialization. Who knows? Who knows?
I guess that's kind of the joy of manga, is it lasts a long time.
Yeah, and, like, generally, like, One Punch Man isn't really, like, so big in the cultural zeitgeist compared to a lot of other series, like, currently, but it still maintains its position as a popular series, so I don't think it's gonna get axed prematurely, which is nice, and I would really like it to come to its natural conclusion, because too many manga get canceled too early, and then we don't get a good conclusion to them. So I have pretty good hope that as long as none of the authors and artists die, we will get its natural intended conclusion.
I think I read somewhere that season 3 just got, like, announced that it's going to get picked up for the West. So that'll give it a boost too. That always helps.
I know. Like, the first season was so good. I would recommend watching it. It's on Netflix. Second season, I never finished watching it. Like, the animation was a lot less good. So hopefully it's good again in season 3. I would love for it to be good. I want other people to enjoy this series like I do. But yeah, like I said, I love this series, but I'm very normal about liking it because it is relatively normal. It's not doing anything too much out of the ordinary, despite it being, like, a parody and a genre that isn't very ubiquitous in manga.
I know we're called the Comics Podcast for Thinkers. You want to hear a thinker big brain moment I had reading this?
Please do, yes.
So when they're about to apply for the Superhero League, Genos mentions how, well, everybody gets a cool name, right? You get a code name. And for whatever reason, I legitimately was like, oh, I wonder what Saitama's name is going to be.
I wonder. Do you know what his superhero name is?
Is it not One Punch Man, the name of the book?
No, it's actually not. His superhero name is Caped Baldy.
Awesome.
Because he's bald and has a cape.
Which I'm not a total dumbass.
Which he, like, I think straight up foreshadows at some point in time. Like, I think Genos is like, oh, the names are usually pretty, like, literal. And then Saitama's like, so I would be the bald cape, huh? Or something like that. I can't find where it is specifically. But then he ends up being caped baldy. And then Genos gets to be the demon cyborg, which is way cooler and way more befitting of a main character.
It rocks.
Yeah, it
Genos
does.
Is awesome.
It legitimately rocks, and that's why he's the cool one. He's cool and super popular, and he immediately gets into S-Class, whereas Saitama literally fails his essay because he's a dumbass. Yeah, good stuff. No, his hero name is not One Punch Man. Maybe by the end of the series, when he becomes a villain, his monster name is One Punch Man.
Okay, yeah.
That would be cool.
Or maybe it's like, Batman is the Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Superman is the Man of Steel. It's like his secondary nickname almost.
Yeah, I don't think he ever gets called One Punch Man in the actual series. I think it's probably very literal, and leads me to think that maybe I'm sitting here comparing One Punch Man to Albert Camus' absurdist philosophies, and I'm like, is this another example of people reading into literature way more than they should? And overanalyzing things? Probably.
That's the show.
Yeah, that's the entire point! Yep. One Punch Man is The Stranger by Albert Camus. It's going to end with him shooting someone 5 times and then getting publicly executed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Taxi driver with superpowers.
Yeah. Thanks for listening. You can find me, Diane, on Instagram at @1_little_gremlin.
And you can find me, Jack Stewardson, at panelpalspodcast.bsky.social on Bluesky.
If you'd like to follow the show, you can do so on Bluesky and Pinksky at panelpals.bsky.social. All of our links are in the show notes. If you like the show, please rate and review on your podcast provider of choice. Panel Pals is a Jack Stewardson, Diane Hitchings co-production with editing by Jack Stewardson. Our musical theme is found by Stemchamp.